I should do intros, but I'm not, because...
Okay. Well, then swapping gears for a second, I just keep getting reminded because I guess we're casting a Korean tournament, and I had this dream where I flew to Korea like basically tomorrow without telling anyone, and I forgot to bring all of my casting gear, and you weren't mad at me at all.
then that's definitely not a real thing. I would be so pissed at you. I'm like, you've been doing this like 3 years. Get your shit together. What's wrong
I
with
brought
you?
like my old headset that I had from like CM Storm or something.
Oh, God.
And you were just like, that's fine, just as long as you're casting. It's good.
All right, well,
I felt
ladies
so guilty.
and gentlemen, welcome back to the Olimoleague. We'll see if my allergies let me get through this cast. We've actually got a pretty nice lineup for this. In the top left, we've got the yellow Terran player, a freak of freaks, KeeN.
In the bottom right, as the red Zerg, he is Soulkey.
Who, I don't know, did we ever confirm? Did he re-sign with TCM? Because I remember there's some debate about this when
He
it was
didn't, actually. So
announced.
that's really funny. I asked him and he's like, no, mistake. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I guess someone reported wrong. What actually happened was someone bumped a super old thread and no one noticed. Or, no, hold on. They didn't bump a super old thread. Sorry. The guy who made the thread saw a super old Facebook post from like a year ago and posted it as new. So either way, the point is there is definitely a mistake.
That's hilarious. Real quick comment on what we were discussing before. I wasn't leaving Wardy or the Gauntlet or any of these other content creators out on purpose, guys. My point was just highlighting what was, I'd say, the most consistent and the most prominent. And as much as I do love Wardy, he's not exactly making front page of like Twitch anytime soon. I mean, we don't even do that anymore. I remember back when Legacy first came out, we would sometimes hit like 13k spikes and be in the top 10 streams at the time for the morning. Felt good, man. Now feels bad, man.
Yeah. I don't think there's any. It wasn't so much boasting; it just wasn't. There wasn't much argument. I mean, there was that Twitch thing that came out, like the web, that showed the prominent streamers in each category.
Yeah, we were
how big
like the
category
biggest
was.
fucking dot right in the
And
heart
were
of
like,
everybody.
we were like the only one. So they do all really great work, and like Wardy has been on a tear with like the amount of casting he's done. But
Well,
yeah,
so
it wasn't disrespect. It was just like
that was an interesting graph you brought up, because that graph particularly showed which channels trafficked to one another, and we were the center because I think consistently hosting other people would also have people host us back, and that's why you saw a lot of that viewer traffic crossover.
Yeah.
I wish they would actually make another one of those, or at least give access to the first one so we could see more data, but upon request, we were told nope, the info belongs specifically to Blizzard, sadly.
Yeah.
Drone does get picked off, which is kind of nice there for KeeN. I wasn't sure if he was going to get much done with the links haven't been made, so nothing too crazy in this game to start. But for Soulkey's sake, just gotta bring this back. As weird as it is, like Soulkey and Armani and a lot of these Zergs, like even True and such, have been showing a little bit of struggles versus Terran. KeeN has never been this super scary, like beyond tier level of Terran player, but he has been good. I don't think he's ever looked as good as he has since he won Gfinity last year, and I know it was a 400 tournament, like scoff at it, but he was looking really good, like really solid in those games back then. More recently, it has been a little bit more janky, and maybe he's still figuring things out, or I don't know, but I actually don't think Soulkey's gonna have too tough of a time with his opponent, especially if he can get to Hive Tech.
So I was not super impressed with KeeN for a long time, but that might have been because he was constantly overshadowed by Byun. And I think Soulkey was actually like on the forefront for a time too. So it was like reality Byun and Soulkey back in the day, right? So KeeN was unfortunately kind of left in the dark. As of late, in the last month or two, I feel like he has been really trying to pick up that mantle from Byun. So he's actually been looking more impressive in the last like 3 weeks, let's say, than ever before. But now Byun's back, and we can just, KeeN, whatever, you can die. It's fine.
It's like, Byun Senpai, please. So the Reaper did die, I guess, in the natural vanilla when we were looking. Didn't kill anything, but did manage to shake up the drone mining just a bit. The Widow Mine compiled with these Marines could get some damage done, perhaps. That mineral line's a prime spot to drop, and roaches aren't going to be made or anything just yet.
Ooh, that is...
That's going to be something that needs to be scouted, is what that is. Nidus
Yeah,
coming down the
absolutely.
natural, and KeeN actually just barely glimpses it, but that kind of looks like an awkward Evo chamber. Unless he were to actually see it and click it, that doesn't look like a Nidus worm. And he still hasn't seen it. I'm like watching his vision through this whole drop.
Right? I mean, unless the drones were pulled that way, I don't think we'd ever see it.
Oh, that got some
maybe he tries to kill the queen.
That got some really good
no.
splash on those Zerglings, by the way. Really like that, but he still never confirmed what that was. He saw it got bigger. Maybe he knows it's a Nidus Worm? I really don't think he identified that, though.
I don't think so either. You're right, you might just think it was an oddly placed evolution chamber, because that would have been odd if it was placed there. But sometimes you just assume that they made a simple mistake, but it is a Nidus Worm, and it is on its way, and there really isn't a lot to defend against. He does pull immediately, so maybe he was looking for it and just assumed that SCV's Marines would help or be enough.
So he's got the drop coming back home. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. We'll find out in a second. Does surround. Nidus Worm going to get transfused by the Queens. You know, a lot of Lings were killed on the other side of the map. Widowmine pops off here, but here's those roaches. SCV's starting to go down, gets a little bit scary. The Nidus Worm still trying to be focused. Finally goes down, help with the Viking on the ground with some of this DPS, but now 23 workers and still rising have been killed during this attack. It looks like KeeN will clean it up, but did he take too much damage is the question at the end of the day. I can't believe that bunker finished up too. What?
Right? Yeah.
And the medevac lives. GG.
Yeah, Soulkey's just gonna GG. I was gonna say, I don't think it's enough damage. I think you really have to get him to like 10 SCVs, because medevac counterattacks would just be like so impossible to deal with. Yeah,
I agree. And on top of that too, like he could have sniped off the medevac, but didn't, and maybe realized that at the last second too. But either way, KeeN taking a very, very nice game number one. That defense was pretty last second too.
I guess he really was just confident enough. It's funny how just like bad Nidus Worms have gotten. They're back to what they were in Heart of the Swarm. The occasional cheese that might work like completely unscouted and with the wrong build from the Terran, but definitely not what they were in Legacy of the Void Beta, where like use it and win. So
we'll get to game number 2 here in just a moment. If they take too long, we'll hop out and do some commercials. Hopefully not, but tweets coming in asking us if we're going to do the European qualifier stuff too for IEM. To be honest, if you guys were to ask me any other day, I would say yeah, without a doubt. Even if Zombie Grip didn't want to, I'd solo cast it. But my allergies are killing me today, guys. I'm barely going to make it through this cast. So I love you all, but I'm just going to say probably no. But if we had the Olimoleague and we got like 5K people tuning in or something, I'm not going to say like, nope, we don't want viewers, goodbye. I'll muscle through it. But for now, the answer is definitely no.
Move your butt, kitten. You're so pretty. Thank you.
Tiny little Apollo, so cute.
I know, he wants to sit.
By the way, so I've been playing Pokemon Omega Ruby lately. You know this. This is more of a story for the stream. Thank you to Eigen Critic for the 13-month resub. Woo. I've been playing Pokemon Omega Ruby lately, and I kind of forgot about a lot of the Pokemon because it's been forever since I played like Sapphire and all that shit. But I got the best Pokemon name/combination. And I sound sorry about this. If you guys don't know what it is, what a Shroomish is, you should Google it. Because I caught a Shroomish and I named it Zombie Grub's reaction face. And I feel pretty much like nail on the head with that one.
It's like they took the no meme and put it on a Pokemon.
Kind of, yeah.
No.
All right, well, game number 2 here for the Olimoleague kicking off. In the top right side, it's going to be the Red Zerg player, Soulkey.
In the bottom right, as the Yellow Terran, he's KeeN.
So I don't want to talk about anything we can't talk about yet. So this might be a little more cryptic than I want it to be. But just so you guys know, there are some really big plans on the way for the Olimoleague, and we've really enjoyed casting it and having a great time. And we're not, this isn't like we're going to stop casting it anytime soon, kind of speak, but its time slot is going to be moving going forwards. It's no longer going to be locked into Saturday mornings. Part of this is because of the conflicts with other events and whatnot, but part of it's because it's got really cool big plans to follow up, which again, I can't give too much information away about, but be excited. If you're a fan of the Olimoleague and this Korean StarCraft League, and hell, even if you're a patron who's been a supporter this whole time, you're going to see some really awesome stuff come up in the near future.
Yeah, can confirm. Well, everyone's talking about that Nidus Worm with that delay. I don't know, like Nidus Worms, as I said, have gotten worse and worse, in my opinion. But also Soulkey. I actually am quite concerned about him. Either it's versus Terran that's tilting him so hard, it's affecting every single Terran he goes up against, or just in general, he's not doing so well. Because he got 3-0'd by Ryung, I believe,
well, Ryung,
a couple of days ago.
Ryung's actually been so much better now than he ever has been in his career.
I agree, but Soulkey didn't just lose and it was like, oh, good fight. like people were just like, I don't even know what happened. Like he looked really bad.
Well, so hang on, go to the topic of the Nidus Worm though specifically. What I really enjoy is again seeing sort of that late game Nidus Worm play. I'm referencing him over Koreans. When was this ever gonna happen, right? Watching people like Nurchio use Nidus Worms against Thermal in that map contest finals that we had recently, like that was, in my opinion, like my favorite version of a Nidus Worm. I think if you go all in with a Nidus Worm, you are in some instances going to be flipping a coin. Like you don't know whether KeeN's gone for like some 3 racks build behind it, has production, doesn't have production. You're risking a lot by doing a move like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But it was something that Soulkey wanted to end the game early, and was not able to. I mean, there's some other things he could have done, but Soulkey actually is, as far as I can recall, like the type to use in a Disworm once every couple best of 3s. He still actually holds on to that build, where I think a lot of those Zergs just kind of gotten rid of it entirely, as it really doesn't perform very well. I mean, that was a 3cc build, so like it doesn't kill that. The production, no bunkers, takes care of it. It's a little worrying. We'll see what Soulkey has in mind for this map. It is vertical spawn, and KeeN could be dropping into his natural a lot, which would be very annoying. But of course, I mean, what is Soulkey going to do is in what composition is he going to choose? If it's cross spawn, I think you can try and get away with Needling Bling, try and make that work. But with these spawns, maybe not. Again, the mutas would be helpful dealing with drops, sure, but then the quicker push might be too difficult to deal with.
Well, it's interesting to see the bunker come down so quick, but secures the location. Third base gets taken by Soulkey in the upper spot instead of the middle, and I think that's a smarter choice. You don't want to have to be dancing around drops and liberators, but same problem will eventually present itself with that cliff so many times in the past. Oh god, so many times on that cliff we've seen these bases die.
Yep.
Spore Caller coming down as well, just to be absolutely safe against liberators. I mean, it's a blind precaution, but we're kind of past the point where you can get away with Cloaked Banshees because you are so the Zerg player paranoid about liberators. You can at least have a Spore Crawler down, usually.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I guess they'll Spore Crawler the base that is most likely to be attacked. Sometimes it's natural, sometimes at the main, and that's where the Banshee can actually like try and circumvent it, like, you know, kind of a mind game situation where you go directly to the third, for instance. That doesn't look very good for liberators, but Banshees can start poking at. Honestly, this third would still be good for liberators and Banshees alike, but you know, whatever. KeeN goes for a third CC. He is going for maybe a second Banshee. I mean, Cloak's still not done. He could actually go for it, but depending on how many he goes for, may have to bring up the word mech or Skyturn.
I would like to see it, but there's so many barracks coming down, it's unlikely. He called up by Hail4 in chat saying, you told me you're playing a different version of the game. I'm sorry, when you tweeted at me, I was playing it on a Walkman. I didn't want to eject the cartridge and see what version I was playing, or rather Madam, so my mistake, my mistake. Still similar games nonetheless.
Yeah. Okay, so it is going to be Mutilating Bling from Soulkey. Now, he gets that Spire before he gets upgrades, so, I mean, I think if KeeN had not been going for a Banshee build, that might have been falling behind, but he did. He delayed his own upgrades as well, so they're probably still going to be timed out. A little funny. Baneling Nest, I guess, was scouted along with everything else, so I think KeeN has a good idea of what's going on. You don't just get a Baneling Nest at this point if you're going to go into Roaches anyway. And the Spire is probably going to take care of the Banshee eventually, but use it before you lose it, so the Banshees are trying to do some damage.
I mean, he already went off and had to be sent back home, and that got repaired up, so let's come back for round 2 now. Henley's just got to darting around, looking for Lynx catch, maybe. Not really a lot to see. That third command center is finishing up. I'm not sure if KeeN's actually going to try and take. It's weird because like the timings on this aren't like, okay, your sim's done, you're ready to push. These Banshees, by the way, dive and get 6 drone kills. That's pretty nice.
Ooh.
But securing a third against somebody who's had this map presence, this creep spread already going out like crazy, and uncontested just macro. I mean, KeeN taking a base up here to the north especially is bold.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Besides being closer to your opponent, which can be a benefit, but then sometimes a downside, like depending on who wins the tug of war that happens. Also is just a prime spot for those mutas to try and harass. So KeeN might even want to invest into 2 missile turrets behind the mineral line to really just like I don't have to deal with this anymore. And of course, any Marines that get rallied over there are going to be helpful as well. Ladies are going on quite a trek to kill a couple of Hellions.
Yeah, at the same time, KeeN's just kind of... I mean, it's a good distraction force, I guess. Banshee's brought back home. Looks like they're repaired again, so just keeping them alive as long as possible. Muta's on deck, turrets starting up, and Scan going down. Sees a macro hatchery actually at the third, interestingly enough. I guess, again, like, macro hatcheries are not a bad idea to have, especially with the way that Soulkey's going to play, that necessity of the extra larva through Lings and Banelings.
Yep.
But again, like, oh, even a fourth base gets taken. I was going to say, there's not really been much happening out of KeeN. His stim was delayed because of his opening. He traded out these 2 Banshees and 6 worker kills for the later timings, but now his timings are finishing up. He's not going to have combat shields, but stim in 1-1. It's pretty nice.
He's just going to bounce. Yeah, I don't think he was prepared to see the army in the middle of the map. Not that he was on creep or anything like that, but just that was a surprise. And Soulkey is actually looking to...
Oh, God, the Banelings. Oh, God, the SCVs. But that doesn't hit them.
Well, that's weird.
Baneling, please.
The Marines mostly went down. Okay, there's the reinforcement Marines. There they are. Okay, so this isn't going to be game over, but that was quite scary. I mean, KeeN was trying to spread his unit just by dropping them out of the medevac, and it's a good thing his reinforcements are already bulked up. Otherwise, it could have been a lot worse. Losing 7 SCVs not devastating, and he just replaces them pretty quickly. But, you know, Soulkey, he didn't just push in and kill SCVs. He stopped them from cleaning up creep. He stopped from really ever feeling aggression, and now he can get a 4th base, I guess, pretty freely on that top left.
Yeah, picks away boosts. This is really... Those Banelings I felt could have at least killed the SCV line. Pulling them back, that would use them for a bigger army fight. And he does have more army as the Zerg player, which is a little unconventional at this point, but the focus fire on the Banelings, pretty good. More coming from the left side, though. Surprise, surprise! SCVs, Kablooey finally wipes out that mineral line. Missile turret's gone too, and KeeN has very little to no units left.
KeeN is gonna die. He's just dead. Like, even if he bounces back from this, the supply is pretty bad. Okay, well, that was a bad trade for Mitas. I mean,
he'll kill the command center. He's going to kill the command center. That's huge. GG.
Wow.
Soulkey will tie up the series 1-1.
Both making their wins look easy.
Yeah, I mean... yeah, there's some comments to be said, but we'll go to a small commercial break. We'll come back. We'll discuss Game 2 as we get into Game 3, and we'll see you guys in 2 minutes. Alright, folks, we're back and hopping directly into game. It is going to be map number 3. Everything's tied up now 1-1 here in the semifinals. Small update on the brackets, by the way. It looks like Scarlet actually lost to Labyrinth, so we'll have Byun versus Labyrinth in the top side of this, making me really hope Soulkey can actually close this out here on game number 3. TVZ finals will be my preference, but at any rate, in the upper left, he is going to be playing for a Freak of Freaks. It's none other than the Yellow Terran player, KeeN.
In the bottom left is the Red Zerg. He is Soulkey.
Okay, so I had said before the break there's some things to be said that I wanted to discuss, and part of that was going back to the discussion we had before. Again, I want to make it very clear I'm not arguing for or against balance, but I just want to show you have a player like Soulkey play that style with not just a macro hatchery, but getting away with a lot, on top of the fact that he took that 4th base, didn't need 4 larvae per inject. My concern with where the matchup is right now is we see things like Liberators and, to a far lesser extent, Ghosts get out of control for Terran than necessarily early game or mid game stuff. And my biggest thing I disagree with when it comes to Blizzard discussing a lot of these changes are I don't feel like they're looking at the right problem to create the wrong solution. Like, the larva inject may or may not be overpowered as hell. You know, maybe Soulkey hits those timings a lot more easily. It doesn't need 4ths or naturals or macros or whatever. Fine. That argument is completely independent of the fact that the issue at hand seems to deal a lot more with Liberators getting insanely out of control, or depending on who you're using Ghosts, but that's usually not the case, than necessarily like larva injects, right? So that, and the same thing for Terran. Like, the Cyclone's currently bugged, and Blizzard admitted to the fact that it's bugged because of some user error. Like, not like the game, but like I guess they changed something wrong on their end. And I still not even talk about fixing that, but instead talk about fixing larva. So again, with these community updates, it's really frustrating for me to look at. Not because like this, that, and the other for balance. I just don't agree with where they're looking at these problems from.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also just really like for them to, I guess, explain more about the feedback they're getting
It's from
So they
Kespa.
say,
That's all you need to know. Okay.
well, it's from Kespa and that Zerg is weak, but like specifically why, and like why would the 4 larva help, and what scenarios, at what point, what points of time, and you know how would they make sure that that's not going to be overpowered if it even would be is kind of like where I would really like to hear Kespa pros.
You know what we need? Okay, so look, here's the facts, right? Co-op is more popular than ladder, correct?
Okay.
And the pro playing pool has dwindled to, well, I would even go as far as to say half, if not less, the size that it was even a year ago, correct?
I don't know about that.
Well, a significant amount of the players have dropped off. I mean, you got to consider, like, with Xenocider on, like low end of things, you got players like Xenocider no playing for North America, less than, like, 3 pro Terrans, period. Then on the big dog side of things, Jadong's really dropped out.
I mean,
Parting's
I
dropped
literally
out. Like,
don't know because there's a ton of like up and comers that are trying but would never make a name for themselves the same way that everyone else did. So
okay,
that was a true. I don't know.
My point of where this is leading, though, is like we're almost at this point where I feel like we could just have like a regular BaseTradeTV league where we have nice username, create a modded version of the game with our balance changes in it, like. And see how, like, I'm actually serious, like, how the, because we goof around. We like to joke. We make the Roach Totem Pole stuff, right? Yeah, but I'm wondering, like, if we had a chance to balance the game, like, we actually got to sit down for a week and objectively put things we think would help and not just, like, goof around like we normally do, how would that version of the game look? I'm really intrigued.
It would be, it's like an interesting concept, but so is like any balance test tournament or, like Starbow or anything like that, where it really is also like if the players aren't consistently playing on it and you know performing to their best and learning and then performing and learning and then performing, like it'll never be truly tested, like quote unquote, right?
So
anyway,
with this drop coming in, let me ask you this one final question then. If you were to balance the game, and I'm not saying like a one magic change, like what aspects would you look at? Because for me, I think the first thing I would look at is trying to make the underused units usable or something along those lines.
I would make the interesting units more usable. I've never been the one that's like everything has to be usable, mech has to work in all matchups, like that type of thing. But like I actually wouldn't mind a Cyclone is only used for what it is right now. I don't really care, to be honest, if it's ever used in mass again. But if Mutilating Bling like starts like really dying off hard, I would look into fixing that. Or if ghosts are never used, you know, ever by anyone, I would fix that. Yeah. Anyway.
I would give Ghost to us. No, I wouldn't, but I actually think the new snipe's kind of interesting with the way it gets used. Maybe this, that, and the other. Anyways, enough about our fantasies. We did have that first drop go off and doesn't do much. Speaking of another retired player. Rip. But the tank should add some interesting flavor to this because that can be dropped on the high ground and then shuffled around, protected by the Marines. And this tank is still going to be able to one-shot a lot of these links. There's no armor upgrades.
You can go through the middle of the map with this and still probably get a lot of damage done, especially if you reinforce like a second tank. But to abuse this position in particular is very interesting. We saw this with Bunny, but not with Marines, with like a Liberator and 2 tanks or some form of that. And that was really cool. To use the Marines here I think is better. They can take care of the Lings, they can actually do some decent DPS even without stim, and they can fit in 1 medevac. So.
Oh, one of mine's going to go off on the Queens here in a sec.
That's a decent amount of damage. Uses their transfuses.
Yeah.
Marines were not cleaned up. Lings had to back off. This is just at least harassment in the form of messing Soulkey up as long as KeeN is trying his best to macro back at home. And he's got a 3rd CC. He's got his own upgrades on the way. They're pretty much even right now. I think eventually this will have to be cleaned up. Like, eventually Soulkey will have enough Lings or something. Come on now.
Well, the drop pick up micros and great. He's only really lost like what 3 Marines through this. Yeah, 3 Marines and a Widowmine, 25 Lings. Not too bad of a trade-off here for KeeN as far as cost efficiency. Not to mention, like you said, distracting and kind of screwing with his strategies. But as this kind of gets cleaned up, he's now starting to go back home. He's looking towards his own 3rd base. And most importantly, his production's finally kicking up. We got the 5 barracks down. We have those reactors and stuff added on. Upgrades are coming out. I mean, what KeeN did through this attack, I think more than damage, was secure his macro play without any worry. No harassment, no looking at the front lines or forgetting to start your +1, nothing like that.
This is quite worrying for Soulkey, actually. He might have mutas, but he won't have Bailing speed. Neither of them have upgrades, I suppose, so it's not super scary yet. But Soulkey's also only on 51 drones on 3 bases, so KeeN's actually surpassed him in worker count, which is not usually where you want to be. Now supply blocked as well, waiting on those
Ooh.
overlords. This is a good counterattack.
Should be dealt with, but yeah, I agree. Very nice run by SCVs. Just get pulled actually rather than stubbornly trying to mine through this. So only loses 2. Makes this an excellent defense out of KeeN.
Yeah, that was a great idea by Soulkey, even. Like, not just a good one, a great idea to get the pressure off of him, but didn't do exactly what it wanted. Saved some of the Lings so they can come back here with this push. Now, pushing away isn't necessarily a terrible idea. It's just more like, be sure not to lose your army, because while you had to go all the way across, KeeN wants to go through the middle of the map, or break down those rocks, or go through the choke with his tanks, and he'll be in a lot of trouble. And this is off creep, so I don't think you ever really truly want to engage. Unless it looked like last game when he engaged and KeeN just couldn't do anything about it. But it's not like last game.
Well, going the other direction with our previous discussion, we should just alternatively just bring back like Imbo League stuff, man. Shit up like Monday Night Zombies and stuff.
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to convince a lot of people to play on that, but that'd be worth looking into. Again, another thing I'd have to talk to Nice Username about, though. Because he's the one who knows how to do all the technical sides of the game. I don't. Medevacs get caught here. Kind of dangerous. 4 tanks. Big priorities. Targets. Picks off the one empty medevac, however. Soulkey's strategy last game worked out really well because not only did he not have to worry about tanks, but he also got away with a lot of free macro. As we saw with the harass, not really the case this game. No room for macro hatcheries and no money for a 4th base. He's trying to attack behind this, and it's not a terrible idea, but when it comes down to base trading against a Terran player like this, I kind of feel like I give it to KeeN in that regard. In fact, this bunker's holding really well. A lot of these Lings already almost dead before the fight even begins. Production for KeeN should hold on to this on his side of the map. In fact, he's already coming home with the Marines. Oh, changing walls! So sick!
So cool. Wow. I mean, KeeN noticed, you know, in enough time, but that was a really cool idea.
I was like, why are they not moved? Oh man, the changelings. That was really sick. Like legit, I really like that. Bailey's coming from the backside, almost catching the Marines. If the changelings were still there and the Marines were on move command trying to get through, those Bailey's would have devastated them.
That was almost the sickest thing that Soulkey's ever done, but not quite. So the base trade doesn't really work out, and Soulkey did lose a good portion of the army, so KeeN now has that army lead, and is getting his upgrades, where Soulkey did skip those for more Banelings and more Mutas.
Yeah, if the Mutas could dive on top of the tanks, remove them so the Banelings could get these hits on the Marines, this wouldn't be so bad. As you see, they do precisely that. This ends up going not too poorly, but at the end of the day, still more supply for KeeN, rallying 12 Marines across the map at a time. 2-2 all on the way to finishing. And this is a choke where if the Banelings could get those hits, that'd be great, but they don't, and they barely don't at that.
Yeah. This is looking like game over. Marines, no Banelings, a couple of Queens can only help so much. And the Mutas, they really need that support to actually get in there and basically not just all die. Some last second splits against those Banelings ends up being good enough, and most of the Mutas are still going down. Lots of medevacs to heal. GG. KeeN will make it an all-Terran finals.
Yeah. I'm going to guess the other semifinals first, though, with Labyrinth versus Beyond. We're going to go to a break before we get into that, but one final comment I'd like to make, since we're having fun, it's, again, fun discussing all this balance stuff, is I actually do think the game, while not perfectly balanced right now, is pretty good. Like, if we're going to be legit and honest, I rather enjoy where the game's at right now. I don't think it's too terrible. I don't think it's anything like as bad as it was in, like, towards the end of HOTS with Swarm Host, for example. But or even, you know what, the worst was early beta. Oh god, early beta was devastating when it came to balance. But no, like truly sincerely, I think Blizzard's done a great job so far. I'm just saying it'd be fun to tweak it in our own little directions and refine it in our own little way. But at any rate, we're gonna go to a small break, just 2 minutes while we get into the other semifinals. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon.